Ken Whiting with Paddle TV, and in this video, we are doing a special head-to-head comparison of 3 of the most popular and best-selling recreational kayaks on the market. In fact, 2 of these kayaks, the Wilderness Systems Pungo and the Sea Eagle 393 Razorlight, I gave Kayak of the Year awards to last year. This one, the Sea Eagle 380 Explorer, I just tested a couple of weeks ago, and spoiler alert, I loved it. But just because I love these kayaks, it doesn't mean that they're the right kayak for you. And so that's what we're going to look at in this video. We're going to compare these very different types of kayaks and hopefully clarify what's the best kayak for you. Now let's start with a really easy one, portability. The 2 Sea Eagles are inflatable kayaks. They fit into a backpack. This one, the Pungo, simply can't compare in terms of portability. That being said, you know, the Pungo is only around 50 pounds, which is quite light for a 12-foot kayak. And being 12 feet in length, it's long, but it's not overly long. So it's a very manageable size to get around for one person or for 2 people. So yes, these 2 portable kayaks win hands down for portability, but the Pungo is a portable hardshell kayak. Now let's look at another pretty easy comparison to make, durability. This Pungo is a hardshell kayak. It's made of polyethylene. Basically, it's a big Tupperware container and designed to take abuse and keep on going for years and years and years. And it does that. It wins the durability award. But a lot of people, when they think of inflatable kayaks, they think, oh, okay, you can easily puncture those kayaks. They're very fragile. That's just not the case. That might have been the case a decade ago, but there's been so much improvement in the technology and the manufacturing of inflatable kayaks, and these are quality inflatable kayaks as well. And so they are remarkably durable. In fact, they do some pretty wild durability tests on these kayaks. So even though you think popping the kayak might be the biggest concern, actually the biggest issue in terms of durability for these inflatable kayaks are actually the valves. If you don't treat the valves well, if you get a lot of sand and dirt in your boat and don't wash it away, if that sand and dirt gets in the valves, you can get a slow leak in the valves and you might have to replace the valves. But otherwise, if you treat these kayaks reasonably well, then they will last a surprising amount of time. But no, they can't compare to a hardshell kayak that is designed to be beaten up. Hey, before I talk any more about these kayaks, so let me first say that if you haven't already taken the ACA online safety course, it's a really good idea to do it. I mean, kayaking is a very safe sport in general, but when things go wrong, things can go very, very wrong. And taking a small amount of time to do the ACA online safety course, which is free, completely free, and it's actually kind of a cool, fun course to do. It's a small investment you can make that can make a world of difference to you and your family. And so I'll leave a link in the description box down below. Okay, back to it. So now let's talk about stability. Now this is where the fact that you have an inflatable kayak and a hardshell kayak is kind of irrelevant. It's the boat design that matters. Now the 380X, the 380 Explorer, is hands down the most stable of the 3 kayaks. This thing was designed not to flip. In fact, you have to try to flip this thing. You're more likely to fall out of this boat than you are to actually flip it, unless you're dealing with class 3 or 4 whitewater. Next in line, you have the Wilderness Systems Pungo. This thing, it's not the most stable kayak. It's certainly not as stable as the 380X, but it's still an extremely stable kayak. It's got good primary stability, like the 380X, which is the stability when you're just sitting there, but what it has that the 380X doesn't have is secondary stability. And that's the stability of the kayak when it's held on edge. Its desire or willingness to be balanced on edge. The Pungo has tremendous secondary stability. So that's nice if you want to edge your kayak. If you're going to be dealing with class 1 current, you're going to be dealing with, you want to turn more effectively. There's a lot of times where having secondary stability is really nice. Now, the least stable of the 3 kayaks is the Sea Eagle Razorlight 393. Now, it also happens to be the narrowest of the 3, and so there's no big surprise that it's the least stable. Does that mean it's not stable? No, it's not unstable. It's just definitely not as stable as these 2 kayaks. It's designed more for speed and efficiency of travel through the water, and so it gives up some stability to achieve that. Speaking of speed, efficiency of travel through the water, let's talk about performance. Now, when we talk about performance, we're really talking about 3 things. We're talking about speed, we're talking about maneuverability, and we're talking about the kayak's ability to deal with rough water. Let's start by looking at the 380X. Now, the 380X, it's definitely the slowest of the 3 kayaks. I mean, it's not designed for speed. It's wider than the 2 kayaks, and the hull is flat. This is what makes it so stable, but it also makes it slower than the other kayaks. Now, it does have a removable fin that goes in the bottom stern, and that helps it track. It helps it keep going in a straight line, but still, you're not going to win any races in this boat. Now, in terms of maneuverability, this thing can spin incredibly well for a 12-foot long kayak. It's fast. That makes it great for tight rivers, creeks, or in current or whitewater. And that also brings us to its ability to handle rough water. This thing has a tremendous ability to handle water of all types. This is kind of a jack of all trades boat. It doesn't perform highly for any type of paddling, but it performs well right across the board. The 380X also has drain plugs. In fact, it has 16 drain plugs in the kayak so that if a wave breaks over the kayak, that water will drain right out. Now, the Pungo is a fast and stable 12-foot paddling machine. This thing is designed to travel efficiently through the water, and it does it very well for a 12-foot kayak. And that's one of the reasons the mix of stability and speed and efficiency of travel is one of the reasons this kayak is one of the most popular and one of the best-selling kayaks in the world. On the flip side, it isn't the most maneuverable kayak, and it also is not designed to handle rough conditions, primarily because it doesn't turn quickly and it can swamp very easily. So you won't want to take this kayak into anything more than class 1 moving water. The Sea Eagle 393 Razorlight is also a fast kayak. It's designed to travel through the water as efficiently as possible without giving up too much stability. Now, as I mentioned before, it isn't as stable as the Pungo, and so it doesn't have that same combination of stability and traveling efficiency, but that's just a cost of being an inflatable kayak. It can't have the same shape that the Pungo as a hard shell can. That being said, it is still a moderately stable and nice and fast flat water kayak. Like the Pungo, it's not designed for maneuverability, and it's definitely not designed for handling rough conditions, although it will handle rough conditions better than the Pungo simply because it's an inflatable kayak. Even if it does get water inside, you have a lot of volume, a lot of air volume, almost like it's wearing its own life jacket to keep you afloat and let you paddle ashore, even with a swamp kayak. Plus, it has some drain plugs to let the water out. So now let's talk about who each of these kayaks are designed for. And we'll start once again with the 380X. Now, the 380X is for people who want a super stable kayak, or for people who want a kayak that can do it all, from flat water to rough water, river running, up to class 3, or even, well, class 3 whitewater. We'll leave it at that. The Pungo is for someone who wants a fast, stable, fun, and high-performing kayak, and they're not worried about portability. You don't have to worry about where to store it or how to get it to the water. The 393 Razor Light is for people who also want a high-performing boat, a fun boat to paddle, and are willing to give up a little bit of stability to get that, and can really benefit or need the portability of an inflatable kayak. So now let's talk about the value you get from each of these kayaks. Now, the 393, it retails or has packages starting at $10.99 US dollars. The 380X has packages starting at $8.99, and the Pungo retails for $11.89. So the Pungo is slightly more expensive, but they're all in the same-ish ballpark. Now, one key difference is both of the Sea Eagle inflatables that package comes with a paddle, among some other things. And so that's a real enhancement, something of real value that you don't get with the Pungo. Does that mean the Pungo is more, it's slightly more expensive and you don't get a paddle with it? Does that mean it's not exceptional value? Well, I wouldn't say that at all. I really think the Pungo is fantastic value for what you get. No, it's not a cheap kayak, but it's certainly not an expensive kayak. And I think you get a wonderful kayak for the price with the Wilderness Systems Pungo. But what that really shows is these other kayaks, the Sea Eagles, at their price points and getting a paddle, they really are exceptional value. And so if portability is important to you, you can find cheaper inflatable kayaks on the market, but for the quality that you get with these kayaks, they are truly exceptional deals. That's all I gotta say. Head to head, I don't know if we have a winner here. I don't think there is such a thing as a winner. I mean, these are three kayaks that if it's the right kayak for you, well, then you are going to be a winner, because they are all winners in their own way. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Paddle TV if you haven't already. And I am going to put some links down below to all the different Paddle Tales episodes that I've done, because I've done a Paddle Tales adventure episode with each of these boats where you get to see them doing their thing on a true, authentic paddling adventure. Not to mention, I'm going to put the links to each of the individual in-depth, unbiased gear reviews that I do. Stay tuned for lots more paddling videos.